Think about this. How long have you been yelling? Has it worked yet? No, it doesn't work. It may have a short-term effect at best. They may sit down and get their schoolwork done that day, but does it increase their love of learning, or do you simply have to yell again? Do they ever, develop a love and a passion for sitting down to learn? Do they make the connection between growth and doing their homework, or growth and participating in school? Probably not, or else you wouldn't keep yelling. Because yelling, the data shows, simply doesn't work. Let's get started. Okay, parents, apply this statement to yelling. As we know, Albert Einstein describes insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. In a 2-year study conducted at the University of Pittsburgh, 967 middle school students with parents that use harsh verbal discipline, yelling, were shown to have increased depression and amplified school behavior problems. Further, the yelling did not correct the undesired behaviors. Today's topic is one that we've all gone through just out of sheer frustration. We love our kids, but sometimes there's times where they do frustrate us. And sometimes that frustration gets the best of us. And I'm going to be very specific and very clear on how we're going to celebrate our kids to success. Well, like I actually mentioned in the early voiceover, there was a study done at the University of Pittsburgh. They looked at 967 middle schoolers over a 2-year period. And what they basically found was that yelling not only was detrimental, but it caused depression and behavior issues, even in households that otherwise were very loving and warm. It simply doesn't work. And as it relates to academics, it is incredibly destructive long-term and consistently, because it will erode your child's love of learning. They won't want to engage. Now, here's the opposite side. We're going to celebrate, 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 like I always mention. Here's how we're going to get our children to be successful. Remember, and if you haven't done so already, start at our growth mindset videos, because that talks about celebrating the launch. That's step 1, because remember, in every video, we're going to have a plan of action. Our plan of action right now first is we're going to stop yelling, okay? Because as I just demonstrated, it really doesn't work. As you already know from your life, it absolutely does not work long term. They may sit around and get the homework done, but they are not going to have a long-term love of learning at all relative to being yelled at. We have to encourage them into academic performance. We have to celebrate them into their desired behaviors. But then additionally, you want to stop yelling, because remember, when you look at the growth mindset videos, and if you haven't, go ahead and start that playlist by clicking down below, because what you want to do first is celebrate the launch. Make sure your child understands that we're on a new journey, that I'm going to participate just like you, that together we're going to grow. Because remember, we want to get our child to a growth mindset to where they understand that it doesn't matter where I start academically, I'm going to improve, that my mind is a muscle, and that wherever I'm at, I can get better through hard work, through effort, through engagement, through participation with my friends, participation with my parents, through study groups, through using technology to help me learn, to help me embrace it. And what's going to encourage that, mom and dad? Celebration. Because remember, one of the other steps in that video is that you're going to identify 2 strengths and 1 growth area in your child. And what I want you to do when you're looking for areas to celebrate, things to reinforce, you're going to reinforce those behaviors that are already existing in your child. So they'll think, and remember, we talk about sound bites. Yes, I am smart, or yes, I am strong, and here are the areas that I'm strong at. And when I put those into practice, I get the result I want. Mom or dad celebrates me. And remember, celebration looks different depending on the household. For some households, celebration might mean, buying a cake or cooking the child's favorite dinner or whatnot. Other households, it might mean going out to dinner. It might mean doing something. It might mean purchasing them something. But we want to keep it balanced. We want to keep it in perspective, meaning if your child is a child who is disengaged in doing their homework entirely and they're underperforming, what I don't want you to do is go out and quote unquote throw them a parade, because then where are you going to go? Remember, our first piece is we want to get them engaged and get them involved, and we want to celebrate their strengths. So let's use this as an example. If your child is a child who is hardworking, but yet they're a procrastinator, when you see them sit down at the table because you've set a schedule for them on their own, I want you to go over and kiss them on their head or do whatever and say thank you for that. Thank you, and I want you to do the same thing when they're done. I also want you to take additional steps, and that is to let your child hear you celebrate them to someone else. You're going to reinforce those behaviors by the end of that week, because remember, another step in that video is that if your kid is a kindergartner through 6th grade, you're going to do this on a nightly basis. But if your kid is a 7th grader through a 12th grader, a secondary student, you're going to do this at a minimum every 2 to 3 days. But if necessary, do it every single day, because we're trying to build these kids. We're trying to encourage them to have the behaviors that we want. Now, here's how you know in your own professional life that reprimand and yelling is not nearly as impactful as celebration. Think about a time where you're at work, if this has ever happened to you or whatnot, and you had a reprimand, a write-up, a verbal correction, or anything like that. How did that make you feel? Did it make you encouraged to, ooh, I love working here and I'm going to keep doing those things? Probably not. At a minimum, it made you correct the behavior so you can retain your job or that you don't look bad. But it did not cause you to engage, to really love what you were doing that day. And it probably had a little bit of residual effect for, a day to a week to, maybe a month or longer after that. Now look at the flip side of that, okay? The flip side is, think about a time where you were celebrated at work, where you received an award or certificate, or even just a verbal recognition from your boss. Thank you for, taking the lead on doing such and such, or you did a good job at this, that, or the other thing. What does that do? It puts a spring in your step. Now I want you to take it one step further. And in that next step, let's imagine at your job, not only did you do that behavior extremely well, but your boss actually asked you to teach that to someone else, or recognized you in a meeting and about how well you did something, or asked you, to explain how those behaviors are helping you do your job better. Do the same thing for your child. The reason why I said I want your child to overhear you celebrating them to someone else is because I want you to put them in the expert position relative to that strength that they have. Because remember, our mind is a muscle. We want them to understand. We want them to have a growth mindset, to understand they're going to grow. We also want to encourage that by having a growth mindset on our own. Because remember, in that celebrating the launch, we're going to talk to our kids about the fact that, and apologize if necessary, that we have a newfound focus, that their education is your priority, and that as a parent, you've made some mistakes, that you didn't maybe step up when you should have actually stepped up, and that now you're going to try to do a better job of celebrating. It does not mean that you are not going to trip up and fall and possibly yell. You may. I want you to overemphasize, I want you to prioritize the celebration. We're going to celebrate them into the behaviors that we actually want. I want you to do that on a nightly basis. I want you to do it on a weekly basis. I want you to track it. And as you do that, please pay attention to the changed behaviors in your child. When you have those parent-teacher conferences, I want you to talk about that child's strength. I want you to use that soundbite, and I want you to become a broken record. Timmy, Susie, Keisha, Tyrone, whomever, they're strong at such and such. They do a good job here. The area that we're still working on, remember, 2 strengths, 1 weakness. The area we're still working on, say, for example, is procrastination. And I want you to have that child sit down and, like we said before, identify what is causing that area of growth or weakness, and have them figure out steps along with you of how to correct it, or at least how to identify when it's actually happening. All right. So like always, by watching this channel, you will have an advantage in helping your child, because more engaged parents produce higher achieving students. Question of the day. Let me know different areas that you celebrate, different strategies that you've actually tried relating to celebration. Please share that. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. That way you don't miss any of our Sunday or Thursday videos. If you have any suggestion for a video, please let me know. Any questions that you have, please put those in the comment section. Please share it with a friend or family member that can actually use it, because again, our children will have an advantage. I'll see you next time.